Dud number one, a combination young tackles, man. The young tackles struggled in this game, specifically Max Mitchell and Carter Warren. They both looked pretty terrible. So let's watch. So we have Mitchell, yikes, Becton. Okay, so Max Mitchell right here to the right side of your screen at the right tackle. Again, just not trying to be mean or anything like that. This is a guy who some people are saying, okay, he's going to take the spot over Becton. We're completely fine with him playing right tackle for us. He had 3 or 4 games where he was really, really good. Hence the air quotes there, really, really good. He was not, but right tackle. Let's watch here. Yeah, pretty bad. So we have a zone based concept where they're just tossing it to trip up the defense a little bit with a sifter right there with Zach Kuntz, who actually good block by him taking on the inside shoulder right there and popping him outside. And yeah, he didn't create a lot of movement, but he got into a good spot. Mitchell though, in terms of what he's doing right here, gotta bring your feet with you, right? Like so simply. And I feel like maybe with games or with game reviews, I'll get a little bit less technical and just like do overall more storylines and talking about guys because it can really take forever. With some of the stuff I'm starting to realize, but with Mitchell there, you gotta bring your feet. We can't plant that right foot and start leaning like that because at that point you're depending on contact. If you don't make strong contact there, you're falling because of the forward lean. So completely straight in terms of like linearness of the body. There's really not much knee bend. He's not bringing his feet with him. Lunges for the block, large load up in the hands, shoots. Obviously, the defender notices. Lean, hands loading. What are you going to do? Get out of the way. Gets out of the way, falls in his face. Not ideal from Mitchell. Okay, so Mitchell with right tackle, right? Know that. Let's watch. Yeah, and and I know Izzy had like a low yards per carry thing going on this game, but not necessarily the best situation here, right? So you have Mitchell, zone steps to his right, but you got to take a more direct angle. You don't want to block to where he is. You want to block to where he may be going, and just not necessarily to where he's going, but you got to take safe angles, right? Inside out. We do not want to get too flat and get your face crossed because this is a wide open gap, especially, I don't know where he started, but with what ends up as a 2-eye tech right here. Sketchy. Do not get too flat. Gets too flat. Again, leaning. His legs are not under him right now in terms of like for power purposes. His legs aren't under him, reaching for contact, and his hands are just laying out there. It's a pretty soft punch. Combined with pretty bad feet, too flat of an angle, so we have quite the shit soup right here. Club doesn't have to arm over because he's basically on his face now. I like the adjustment and trying to get back on that block, which he does, but because of that penetration now, obviously Izzy has to flatten it out, and it's going to allow guys to rally and make a tackle, right? So even though you got back on the block, I'm sure somebody will say that. Well, maybe not. But not ideal, right? Because now guys rally to make the tackle. Izzy's in a really tough spot. So not ideal. So Tippmann right here. Yeah, this is probably his best play of the game. Really, really good block from Tippmann. This is a tough spot for multiple guys here. One, like, yes, and Cologne, which actually credit to him here because he deserves some credit from this game actually as well. Even though I saw that PFF graded him poorly, but again, trust PFF how you want to. I actually thought Cologne had a good game. You can trust him over me. That's fine. But it was a really good job staying square, popping up that play side shoulder, allowing Tippmann to get underneath. But Tippmann himself gets flat, immediately gets flat because at this point, different offensive systems, tight zone, inside zone, outside zone, wide zone, belly zone, whatever it may be. That kind of dictates exactly how you're going to block it here. So if they are running an outside zone, which I don't know if they are, and depending on how Keith Carter coaches the offensive line, it's dependent on if you're going to reach in here, kind of just take him where he's going and force him to the outside. Obviously, he's trying to get in front right here, so we can't take an aggressive angle towards him because if you take an aggressive angle towards him, he's always going to have that positional leverage to the play side, right? You're not going to be able to block towards him and then somehow get around him. So Tippmann has to lose ground or stay very, very flat to get underneath of that defender. Does a good job. Hand placement into the V of the neck. Perfect. Tight elbow, V of the neck. Now we're going to use that hand as a pivot point. We're going to swing our hips around the best we can. So good job by again Cologne right there. Pop up on your shoulder. Tippmann right hand into the V of the neck, which looks like it gets deflected. He refits it. Hell of a job refitting the hand. Left hand grabbing again. When you're grabbing like this and your elbows are tight, it's technically a hold, but it's not ever going to be called. So control tries to hold them up there. Right hand into the V of the neck area. Uses that as a pivot point, and has the hip like flexibility and looseness to swing himself around. Swings himself around, immediately gets into his anchor. Because at this point, he doesn't want to get pushed and eliminate this gap, right? So he gets in front, not an easy spot to be. He's compromised at this point, right? Like not the best spot to be in, leaning, all that stuff, but he's got to get in front. So you're going to be compromised. How quickly can you get out of that compromised spot? Tippmann does it quickly, does it well, gets into his anchor, into his bridge, arched back right there, nice and straight, lift the guy up. That's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to lift him up instead of push versus push, force versus force. You're going to deflect that force by lifting up. That's what he does. Izzy does a good job here too. Takes the handoff for him. Okay. Outside versus inside. We're not going there. Outside versus inside with him scraping hard to the over top. We're not going there. Got to trust your offensive lineman at this point and trust this gap's going to be open. Izzy sees that, trusts them, and does a good job in terms of his feet. This is something that Cook didn't do a lot for me watching his film, at least enough for my liking. But you want to maintain high knees here. Basically just be light on your feet, almost like you're trying to run across the lake, that's like partially frozen or whatever. We want light feet, we want big heavy steps. So pull your knees up, avoid that foot traffic. That's exactly what he does there. Getting through the hole, high left knee, high right knee, and then gets through. Good, 5-yard run, whatever it is for him. I didn't obviously count. About 5 yards, 6 yards. But a good play from Izzy right there as well. So good Tippmann, good Izzy. We'll just notice guys secondarily right here. Dude, like this is Kuntz right here. Again, we're not talking about technique or anything like that. He maintained positional leverage on a DN. I'll take it. Like decent game from Kuntz too. Warren, good cut block on the backside right there. Let's see. Mitchell, still leaning, hand still scooping from low. Doesn't get contact first. Hand lands onto the elbow. Not the best block from Mitchell there. He gets stood up quite a bit. Moving on. I miss breaking down games. Just going through and talking about so many players and stuff. It's great. Jets football's back. Tippmann 2 flat. Okay, so not the best play. Again, just because you're a stud doesn't mean you didn't have a bad rep out of 50 or whatever Tippmann played. So center. See what happens. Okay. I don't remember if this was a thing with him at in college at Wisconsin or not, but I can go back and look at my notes. So he's blocking back. I call this blocking back instead of blocking down. There's a little bit differences for me, kind of. So blocking back, what's the absolute last thing we want to do here? We do not want him to cross our face, especially over the top. Well, especially over the top. Well, crossing your face will be over the top. You don't want him to cross your face over the top here because that's the quickest way he's going to get into the play. And I'm not necessarily recommending this. I'm just saying it would be less bad, even if he took an angle that's too high for this defender and he had to get underneath of this and then try to outrun or run down the running back. That's even better. But the last thing we want to do is get too flat and then go over the top. Even too high is better, like I said. But obviously, we want a perfect angle. Perfect angle, patient feet. Here, Tippmann, snap, too flat. He's blocking to where he is. He's blocking to where he is, not a safe block to where he may be going. Too flat. Realizes it halfway through. Oh shit. Tries to adjust. He gets his left hand in there. But the defender's going to drive his feet through that. At this point, his body's not really in that block. It's just his arm. So his arm's not going to be able to hold up a 300-pound defensive lineman. He gets through and makes a tackle or gets in on the tackle. Too flat. I'm sure he'll adjust that. We got to stay a little bit more high with that angle, a little more patient. Let me see if there's anything else really quickly to notice. Okay. Kuntz loses there, but at least he stays on the block for at least a second. Want to see a little bit more active feet. Anybody else that's worth mentioning? Not really. Warren. So like with this like ricochet or with this like Crowler combo, We want to be like foot to foot, hip to hip. We don't want to like undercut each other and start working our momentum into each other. So Warren gets a little bit too flat here. Gets a little too flat, and now his initial contact with his offensive lineman instead of on the defender, at least I believe. And even if it's at the same time, we know that force is now generated into his offensive lineman instead of all of his force being generated onto the defensive lineman. So past that, okay, drive, try to uncover or try to peel off of that and get a hand on. Okay, it's okay, not bad, not so bad, not great, obviously for the reasons I just said. 2 more plays. Tippmann, good. Warren, All right, and past that, okay, we have Kuntz and we have what is that? EJ Jenkins, and again, I apologize for not remembering 33's name, but I don't think he's going to make it. Obviously, the running back situation they just have, I think it's Crockett. Maybe it's Crockett. So Tippmann, good. Let's watch Tippmann, center. Again, just drive. It's relatively simple here, but with that being said, quick off the snap. Hand placement, left hand into the V, a little bit outside the V of the neck, but still left hand inside, tight elbow angle. Can't see where the right hand lands. We want to assume it's near the hip area, or at least the rib cage, which it looks like it is. Driving. Now, the one thing we got to be careful about is driving off your toes. We want to drive more off the insteps. They're more powerful, but sometimes when you're reaching, you can't do insteps. Insteps almost shortens your legs versus your toes. So sometimes you'll see guys get on their toes if they're leaning for guys, and combo. Okay, we're not so concerned about it, but good job getting hands inside. Good job driving. Now for there's really nothing for Kuntz there for Warren in terms of the it's not so bad. The problem with this block here is what? Forward lean, a little bit of forward lean. It's not so bad, but the hands. Low and scoop. The dude has 35-inch arms. You got to use more direct angles. We cannot scoop. We cannot lean into blocks. When you duck your head, you scoop, you lean into a block, you're going to get splashed. He gets splashed. No strong point of contact. His left hand's not on. His right hand's outside. Defender stacks him very easily. Tosses him aside. Not the best play from Warren for sure on that one. Last play of Tippmann, and then we get into the good and the bad of both sides of the ball. Tippmann eyes. Okay, again, relatively simple here, I believe, but center. Yeah. So, block into it. So you guys have the separation here. Center to left tackle sliding to their left. Then we have the right guard to right tackle sliding to their right. So we have Tippmann. Doesn't want to be too aggressive with this block. So good job not necessarily chasing it. It looks like he almost goes to using an overlap technique right here, where we've talked about that plenty of times in the past. I'm sure I'll explain it again in the future. I'm not doing it now, but it basically just assists his guard knowing he's there, and also kind of puts his hand in a good spot to get right to the defensive lineman if he starts to penetrate said gap. So goes to overlap. I don't think he feels it, so he kind of pulls it back, and maybe it's a partial portion of, okay, it's just in the bicep we really want it, or tricep we really want it to the outside. And 2, this guy's already here, so I don't want to necessarily reach for this and then have him splash me. So I think that's probably the reason he pulls it back, because he's pretty quick up on his shit right here. So pulls the hand back. But with that being said, left hand comes, lands into the chest. Okay, cool. Lands into the chest. He's obviously feeling not much pressure from that rush, so not necessarily disengaging, but keeping active eyes. What's going on. He's not feeling a very strong rush from that defender. So typically that could mean there's going to be a stunt, or maybe he just sucks a little bit. But nonetheless, if you have time, if you don't have to be laser focused on your guy, then look for some secondary threats. At this point, the block is pretty much locked up. Tippmann scanning the field, looks to the right, sees that, lowers his shoulder just enough to pop up the right shoulder of that defender and completely shuts down the rush. Good eyes. Rookie, good eyes for sure. That's something you don't necessarily always see. Very, very, very minuscule detail. Minuscule details matter a ton in football. The most minuscule detail could make you a pro bowler or a nobody.